Hi students, this lecture for BBA 4th sem. And so in the last class we discussed on the related to the purchase consideration, and I hope all of you solved that problem also, which is I have given for the homework. Okay, so now in this class we will see the next step. It means what's the accounting for amalgamation. So for this accounting for amalgamation there are three steps, you know that. Okay, so in the last class also we discussed the first step is what's computation of purchase consideration. Second thing is what's closing the books of transferor company, and last one is what's incorporating the assets and liabilities in the books of the transferee company and the preparation of amalgamated balance sheet. Okay, so this is about the these are the three steps, right? Okay, so now the first step is what's the computation of purchase consideration. We saw that the computation of the purchase consideration in the last class. Okay, so there are 4 5 methods are there to calculation of the purchase consideration: lump sum method, okay, the net asset method, net payment method, intrinsic method. Like this, so many methods are there to solve the or the computation of the purchase consideration. And I hope all of you understand that the how to calculate the purchase consideration. Okay, so now in this class we will see the format for the closing the step number 2. Okay, for the step number 2, closing the books of transfer company. In this class we will see the format. Okay, so now see the format. Okay, so closing the books of the transfer company, it means what's when the transfer company is going, they are going to amalgamate into the transferee company. Okay, so at that time they are going to exist, right? Okay, so for that purpose closing books they have to prepare. Okay, so now how to prepare, just see the format. So this is the journal entries format we have to draw. So the serial number or the date column, as well as the particulars left column, debit amount column, and the credit amount column. Like this we have to draw. Okay, so now see for transfer of all assets and provisions. Okay, so when whatever the assets are there, so with the transferor company they are going to transfer to the transferee company, right? Okay, transferor company they are going to transfer the assets to the transferee company. For at that time how to pass the journal entries: realization account debit to each assets account credit. Okay, realization account debit to each assets account credit. Like this we have to transfer the entry. Okay, and suppose if the transferring company does not take over cash at the bank balance, no, at that time they should not be transferred. Okay, they should not be the transferred. So next in number 2, for transfer of all outside liabilities. Okay, so when all the liabilities are transferred from the transferor company to the transferee company, at that time how to pass the entry: each liability account debit to realization account credit. Okay, so like this how to pass the entry. Okay, so each liability account debit to realization account credit. Next entry number 3, which is the for transfer of equity share capital. Okay, for transfer of equity share capital. So whatever the transfer company having the equity share capital. Okay, what's the equity share capital? So at the time how to pass the journal entries: equity share capital account debit to equity shareholders account credit. Okay, equity share capital account debit to equity shareholders account credit. Like this have to pass. Next entry number 4, for transfer of preference share capital. Okay, so whatever the preference shares capital having of the transferor company, now this transfer company is going to transfer the all the preference share capital to the transferee company. Okay, so now see how to pass preference share capital account debit to preference shareholders account credit. Okay, preference shares capital account debit to preference shareholder account credit. Like this have to pass. Now see the entry number 5, which is for transfer of reserve, share premium, and the profits, etc. Okay, so whatever their reserve, their transfer company are going to transfer the reserve as well as the share premiums and the profit, etc. So like at that time how to pass the journal entry: reserve account debit, share premium account debit, profit and loss account debit. It means what's the surplus? Surplus means what is the profit. Okay, so debit to equity shareholders account credit. Okay, what's that equity shareholders account credit? Like this you have to pass for the transfer of reserve, share premium, and the profits. Okay, so next for transfer of losses, preliminary expenses, etc. Okay, at that time how to pass the journal entries? So equity shareholders account debit, to profit and loss account credit, to preliminary expenses account credit, to discount on issue of shares account credit. Like this have to pass the journal entry. Okay, so next, for adjustment of purchase considerations, if there is any adjustment in the purchase considerations, then you have to pass the journal entries. So now how to pass the journal entries? Transferee company account debit to realization account credit. Okay, transferee account debit to realization account credit, have like this have to pass the journal entries. Next, for receipts, 8 number, for receipts of purchase consideration. Okay, for receipts of purchase consideration, for this purpose how to pass the journal entries? Share account debit, debentures account debit, bank or cash account debit, to transfer a company account credit. Okay, so like this how to pass the journal entries. Next, number 9, for sale of assets not taken over by transferee company. Okay, so which is whatever the sale assets are sold by the transferor company, these assets are not taken by the transfer company. At that time how to pass the journal entries? So bank or cash account debit to realization account credit. Okay, so bank or cash account debit to realization account credit. Like this have to pass the journal entries. Next, number 10, for payment of liabilities not taken over by transferee company. Okay, so which is payment liabilities are not taken by the transferee company. So at that time how to pass the journal entries? Realization account debit to bank or cash account credit. Okay, so like this have to pass the journal entries. Next, for payment made to preference shareholders, for payment made to share preference shareholders, how to pass the journal entries? Preference shares account debit, preference shareholders account debit to preference share capital account credit to debentures account credit. Okay, so like this how to pass the journal entries. And number 12, for closing realization account. Okay, closing realization accounts, in that there are two entries we have to pass. In the case of transfer of profit on realization account, then you have to pass the journal entries like this: realization account debit to equity shareholders account credit. Like this have to pass. And suppose if the transfer of loss on realization account, then you have to pass the equity shareholders account debit to realization account credit. Vice versa we have to do here in at the time of the closing realization. If it is profit, then the different; if it is losses, they are going to transfer, then the different entry we have to pass. Next, last number, which is the 13th, for final settlement of equity shareholders. Okay, for final settlement of equity shareholders, at that time how to pass the journal entries? Equity shareholders account debit to share account credit to debentures account credit to bank or cash account credit. Okay, so like this you have to prepare the what's the closing the books of transferor company. Okay, so on this, like this, it will come for the 10 marks problem. Okay, you will come for the 10 marks problem, and it's very important. But don't get fear, because whatever these 13 entries are there, so in the problem they will not ask these 13 transactions. They will maybe ask for 4 transactions or the 5 entries or the 4 entries. Okay, so but you know which are those entries are given and which entries we have to pass. It means what? These 13 transactions you should know. Okay, for the preparation of the closing the books of transferor company, they will not ask all these 14 or the 13 transactions, but they will ask your 4 to 5 transactions. Okay, for this closing the books of the transferor company. Okay, so I hope you will be the understand. If you have any query with this session, you can contact me. Okay, so thank you.